This is Craig Strode Psychology Assignment 2. The date is the 7th of January 2014 and the time is 10 past 6. I'll start off with arousal. Arousal is your readiness or excitement to perform. It can affect performance in a positive or negative way during sport. And I've got the quote there. Go on to drive theory. The Hull's drive theory demonstrates a positive correlation between arousal and performance. Basically, the lower the levels of arousal, the lower level of performance. I agree with this in sports such as weightlifting, because in weightlifting you need a lot of arousal and need to be pumped up to be able to lift the weight, whereas in sports such as darts, if you have very high arousal, you could lose your technique, meaning your performance will decrease. This mean at the table is not valid for sports such as darts that involve a lot of skill and technique, but the table is valid, or the graph is valid for sports such as weightlifting that involve a lot of arousal. The inverted U theory. The inverted U theory shows the relationship between arousal and performance. As you can see from the graph, there is an optimal level of arousal, a level of arousal that is too high, and a level that is too low. If your arousal is too high or low, your performance will decrease. Whereas if you have optimal arousal, you perform to the best of your ability. An example of this is if a football player is taking a penalty and is under aroused, they're likely to take it half-heartedly and could miss. The catastrophe theory. The catastrophe theory is when someone is performing either well or about average and they do something wrong, and for the rest of the game they will play very badly. An example of this will be, again, a player has taken a penalty halfway through a game and they miss the penalty and they'll lose all confidence in themselves during the rest of the game, meaning they'll miss simple things like passes or simple shots on goal. We've got the 4 different stages of the graph here. So stage A is the cognitive anxiety and the physiological arousal are high, causing the catastrophe effect. We got on the B, the performer continues with extreme over arousal, causing performance to decline. Point C is where arousal is so high that performance is at its lowest, and point D is where the performer can get to grips with the problems and arousal levels will return to the optimum level. Moving on to the novice versus elite now. We got novices at sport such as football. They've got to play with relatively low arousal levels. This is because they need to focus on technical side of the sport, such as kicking the ball in the correct way and how to tackle properly, whereas elites can play with high arousal because the sport comes naturally for them, meaning they don't have to focus on the technical side of the sport. This will affect their performance in a good way, because if they can get pumped before a game, they're going to be ready to perform as best as they can. The effect on performance. If a player is low aroused, they'll have a broad attention span, meaning that they will become distracted by things that are not important to the game, such as the crowd. This will affect their performance in a bad way because they will not be able to concentrate fully. An example of this, again, if a player is taking a penalty, they could focus on the crowd behind the goal rather than actually taking the penalty itself. If a player is optimally aroused, they'll have an optimal attention span, so they will be concentrating on things that they need to, such as the other team and their team members. This will affect their performance in a good way, because they will be fully concentrated and will see exactly what is going on during the game. An example of this, again, is if a player is taking a penalty and they are optimally aroused, they're likely to score because they are focused on what they need to be focused on. And if a player is high aroused, they will have a narrow or tunnel vision attention span. This will affect their performance in a bad way because they will be focused on certain things, on one certain thing, when they need to be focusing on lots of things during a game. An example of this is if a player is fouled during a game, they could get really angry and could just focus on getting the player that fouled them back. This means that they will forget about how they have to perform and what they have to do, and they'll worry more about the other player. Moving on to stress. Stress is a stimulus resulting in arousal at a response to a specific situation. We've got my quote there again. On to types, we've got eustress and distress. Eustress is known as the good form of stress. It gives a feeling of fulfillment and can actually improve performance and intrinsic motivation, such as if a player is stressed about taking a penalty, it could make them perform better because they want to score so badly that they'll do anything to make sure they do. If the player scores the penalty, they will get a feeling of fulfillment, and it increases intrinsic motivation because the eustress they are experiencing makes them want to perform better. Distress is the bad form of stress that an individual experiences. It's an extreme form of anxiety, nervousness, apprehension, and worry. We can use the same example for this as if a player was stressed about taking a penalty but experiencing distress, not eustress. They'll be doubting their own ability and will be worrying about not missing rather than focusing on scoring. If the player is doubting their own ability and worrying, they are more likely to miss the penalty. On the causes, we've got internal, external, personal, occupational, or sporting. Oh, go back to that. We've got internal stress is things that we think about, such as past memories. And it's things that are internal memories that get us worried about certain things, such as going into tackles as a player, such as if you've recently just come back from injury, from tackling too hard or with the wrong technique, you are likely to back out of the challenge or go into it half-heartedly. Then you're going to get more injured by going into it half-heartedly. External stress is things in our surroundings and environment that get us stressed. External stress can come from anything such as crowds cheering or seeing the other team that you are playing or about to play. Personal factors can be anything that is personal to you that gets you stressed. Things from worrying about a job interview or being stressed about money not going far enough. Occupational factors are factors that get you stressed that are linked to your job. This could be worrying about a job interview again, or it can be you are stressed about being unemployed. Sporting factors are things related to sport that get you stressed, obviously. This can be things such as having an argument with your teammates or manager. Symptoms now, we've got somatic, cognitive, and behavioural. Somatics is the physical effects of stress, so this is things such as sweating, muscle tension increasing, increased heart rate and breathing rate. Cognitive is the mental side of stress, so things such as having negative thoughts or doubting thoughts or indecision. And behavioural is the thing that we do, such as fidgeting, not keeping eye contact, becoming more extrovert, so such as making jokes out of the situation, or becoming more introvert, such as trying to hide and ignore the whole thing. The effect on performance, we'll start with eustress. Eustress can improve performance because if a player is worried about not scoring a penalty, they're going to do anything to make sure that they do score it. They could even do a skill or technique that didn't even know they could do before. This is because the adrenaline is released into the body, so they could do a skill that they never even thought they could complete. Distress will decrease performance on the other hand, because if a player is worried about missing a penalty, they are experiencing distress, they will be doubting their own ability and will have indecision. This means that when they're stepping up to take the penalty, they won't know whether to place the ball into the corner of the goal or to hit the ball as hard as they can so the keeper can't save it. This will result in them doing neither and missing the penalty completely, so this is indecision. And anxiety. Anxiety is a negative emotion, and it's usually related to feeling nervous or being worried about something. There is my quote again. I'm going to types now. So first of all, we got state anxiety. State anxiety is in the environment, such as experiencing anxiety when taking exams. An example of this will be a player being nervous about a big game in sport, such as against your rivals or in a cup final. We have trait anxiety. Trait anxiety is things that to do with your personality, such as feeling threatened in non-threatening situations. An example of this would be a player feeling anxious about playing a game because they feel that they have to perform at their absolute best in every game, even though the game may not be important at all. Causes, we've got internal. Again, internal anxiety is things related to your thoughts, such as thinking about past injuries or experiences. External anxiety are things in our surroundings, again, such as crowds cheering or the other team that you're playing against. Personal factors, occupational factors. Um, that's things again to do with your job. So if you're worried about or anxious about a job interview or about not having a job. We got sporting. Sport factors for anxiety will be things such as having an argument with your manager on whether you should play a certain game or not, like in the starting 11. So, example, this will be is if a big named player is named on the bench for the start of a game, they could disagree with them, and in some cases, they actually refuse to come on and play the game because they feel that they should have started. We've got symptoms. Start off with somatic. Somatic is the physical effects of anxiety, things such as sweating, muscle tension increasing, increased heart rate and breathing rate. Cognitive, again, is the mental state, the mental side of anxiety, sorry. Things such as having negative thoughts and doubting thoughts or indecision. And behavioural the things that we do, such as fidgeting, not keeping eye contact, becoming more extrovert, again making a joke, or introvert, just trying to hide away from it. And the effect on performance is the decrease in performance. Obviously, like I just said, it affects your performance in a bad way, because if a player is experiencing anxiety, they will be doubting themselves and their own ability. This could be things such as taking a penalty again, meaning they will be feeling anxiety before the penalty, so they're more likely to miss as they won't really know what to do and they'll be panicking.